I'm Tony, and today we're going to do different ways of making and turning tubes. So, why do you need a fabric tube? Many different reasons. Maybe you need it for a piece of clothing. Maybe you need it for trim. Maybe you need it for a tie on something, like a mask. Or maybe you want to use it as piping in a stained glass quilt. Either way, tubes are part of life, and turning them inside out stinks. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that we can turn them, but of course, first, I'm going to show you how to make a tube. It's kind of easy. Before I can show you how we're going to turn the tubes, I need to show you how to make the tubes. So first thing we're going to do is cut our strips. Now, depending upon what project you're doing, it'll tell you what size tube you need. It may tell you how to sew your tube, or it may just say you need a finished tube of this length, of this width. So the math, let's say if you need a 1/2 inch finished tube, we're going to be doing a 1/4 inch seam on each side of the tube. So that means you cut 1 inch tubes. In my case, I'm going to do a 3/4 inch finished tube. So let's cut 2 of the 1 1/4 inch strips so that my finished tube is going to be about 3/4 of an inch. There we are. We have my 2 strips, and now we're going to take them to the sewing machine, and I'll show you how to sew those to create a tube. Okay, I have my fabric strip. As you see, I have opened it up. So all I'm going to be doing is taking this fabric strip, folding it in half lengthwise, and sewing a 1/4 inch seam. All right, so let's go ahead and line this up. You know what? Let's use a scrap piece of fabric in order to chain piece to lock in that area right there. So let's go do that. Now what you may want to do is go ahead and back up your thread at the beginning and the end of your tube just to make sure it really is locked in place. There we are. Now, oops, let's cut that away. You may notice I am using a white thread. That is so you can see the stitches and you can see what I am doing whenever I'm sewing it. I normally advise that you use a same colored thread as your fabric. Don't use a contrasting unless that's the look that you're going for. All right, let's sew this all the way down. Same thing at the end. I'm going to back it up a few stitches to lock in that thread. And we're going to sew it out, and then I'm going to use my scrap in order to free it. And I'm going to be doing this for both of the tubes, and I'll show you the 2 different ways that, the 2 different tools that you can use to flip them. Now, before I discovered these tools, I actually used to take a safety pin and put it on the end and kind of try to flip it inside out and work it all the way through. That works. It just takes forever in order to flip it, and it's hard on your hands. It hurts. It's not good. So then I discovered the loop turner. So it looks like this. There's a couple of different sizes, and what it does is you stick it through the tube and it hooks it and then pulls it. Now, this is a very, very hard tool to get used to. I watched a ton of YouTube videos and I still didn't understand it, and I still couldn't get it to work until one day it just worked. So I'm going to show you the technique that I use in order to get it to work. If you cannot get it to work, don't get frustrated. It's okay. It happens. So the first thing you want to do is take your tube and take your loop turner and slide it all the way through your tube. You notice how it's not coming out the other end. It's bunching up along on that hoop. Okay, so I'm going to turn this. And the trick, remember, you want to hook this onto that fabric right there. Now, here's what a lot of the tutorials didn't do that I started doing in order to get it to stay. Because the problem that I was getting is as I would pull this through and loop this through, it would undo itself and it would loosen up from this fabric. And it annoyed me and I would have to redo the whole thing again. So what I discovered is if I take this little part right here and I stick it through that fabric. So you see what I did? I pulled this right here and I shoved it through that fabric and created a little bit of hole right there with this little bit. And then bring it up. And as it closes, it now has a bit of fabric that's going to hold on to that right there and not let go. Now, yes, you just put a hole in your fabric, but it's a tube and it's fabric. You're not going to see it. It is perfectly okay. All right, so the next trick is trying to get it to catch to turn to the other side. You notice how I didn't catch it on this side where my stitches are. I have discovered it's easier to catch it on this side. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab with my thumb and my forefinger just below where this piece of metal is. And I'm going to kind of pull it up. And as I'm pulling up with this hand, I'm going to be doing this. Because what you want to do is wiggle it back and forth as you're pulling. And then eventually it may, oh, there it goes, it caught. So what happens, let me actually show the camera right there. What happens is it catches and starts to pull it through. So then as I'm pulling, I'm just going to kind of gently, there we go. I'm gently, so what I'm doing is I'm pulling it like this in the bottom. So this is the way that the bottom looks. I'm just grabbing hold of this and the top, you're just gently pulling it through. Now, as the bottom frees, as you see here, I'm going to actually grab this bottom piece here. I'm going to actually start grabbing from here and pulling and start doing that. So then that way I can start doing it. Now, don't grab, whoops. See, and that if I didn't have it looped right there, just now, it would have all come undone and it would have come loose. Now, you see here how it already almost just came loose like that. So you can unhook it at this point and grab here, and you don't need that anymore. Now, don't do too much at once. Go in little tiny increments whenever you're flipping your tube. If you try to do too much at once, it's going to bunch up and knot, and then you're not going to be able to get your tube. And there it is. There is my tube all flipped using the loop turner. Now let's take a look at the easy point and turner. So this is a little bit different. It's basically the same principle, but you catch the loop in here and then you flip it from one to the other. Now this one also has a little bit of a learning curve. It is easier and faster once you get used to it. I am not quite used to it yet, but I'm getting there, which is why I'm going to show you how to use it with a larger tube and not the smaller tubes that we cut, because it's honestly a lot easier to turn larger tubes on this. Once you get used to it though, and once you start to master this, you can turn all tubes. You just, like the other one, it's a little bit of training wiggle room. But overall, I like this one the best. So here is the smaller end. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to take our tube and put the entire thing on the smaller end. You can do as large as an end-to-end tube. You see it's bunching up there nicely. And then what you do is you kind of go past that little thing right there and you close it. Okay? Now, holding closed, making sure it's not going to flip, what you do is you wiggle the fabric until it catches. So take the fabric and wiggle it, and then as you see, it just all of a sudden starts turning. So it's faster, it's better, and now I can let go, pull this off, and pull the rest of the tube out. You see how much faster that was? So this is a much faster, better way to do it, but it has a bigger set of learning curves, like I said, especially for the smaller tubes. If you have medium to large size tubes, don't even try the loop turner, just go right to here. If you have smaller tubes, I would try them both until you figure out which one you like best. But as you see, so much faster and better. I know what you're thinking. You're like, but Tony, where's the cheater way? Because, you know, I like to make things easy and efficient. So here you go. Here is the cheater way of making tubes without having to turn them. Buy yourself some bias tape. A double folded bias tape to be exact. Okay, so you've got this bias tape. What you want to do with this bias tape is cut it to the length that you want it. So let's say I want a small tube. Okay, so this is the length that I want my tube. Make sure that your bias tape, like I said, is double folded. All I'm going to do is sew 1/8 of an inch all the way down right here, matching the color to my tube, and it's done. Seriously, it's the cheater way. Just get some bias tape and sew it right down. So it's a very, very, very easy way to get the job done. Now remember, you are going to see that thread. You're not going to see the thread if you do the tube the traditional way, but you'll see it here, but it's a fast and easy way. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned a little bit about tubes today, whether you're using your favorite tool or you cheat a little bit and take the easy way out. Hopefully now you know how to make and turn tubes. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video, follow my YouTube, as well as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget about Twitch, where I sew live and you can interact and ask me questions.